Welcome to this episode of Shonen Flop, where we talk about manga series and Shonen Jump that didn't make it big. I'm David.
I'm Jordan.
This week, we're talking about Bokkesan, and we're joined by our guest today, Reborn.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us on this very interesting manga journey.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
My name is Reborn Pyro. I run a show called Schreddit where we take toxic subreddits every week and we point and laugh at them.
That's great.
Wow, I bet you have some really cool guests on there.
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
Some really cool people who might be on an episode.
I don't believe in listening to podcasts or using Reddit, so I'll assume that Jordan is joking that he was on the show. It's ironic because he is not a quality guest.
Oh!
Got him.
You know what, David? Fine. I'm just gonna leave. If you're gonna treat me like this, I swear. My therapist says I should stop putting up with this shit, so whatever.
I love you.
Thank you.
But no, he's an amazing guest. The episode with him on it was really fun, and we're about to do another one shortly.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous. I was on a recording on Friday with this dude, Dan, who was British, who just joined the Discord about D&D items. So it's always fun to be on a show, because then you don't have to do any of the hard parts. You just get to talk for 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pyro, you didn't have to write the plot summary for this, so
why don't we actually jump into... Oh my god, Jordan, we completely forgot to determine section leaders.
Oh boy.
Fuck it. You know, I'm just going to call in whoever I feel. This is like jazz. I just want to be done talking about this series as soon as we can.
It's about the people you don't call on.
Let's get into the manga details. This series was created by Yoshiyuki Nishi, who was a former assistant of Takeshi Obata, creator of Death Note and Hakaru no Go. So clearly he didn't learn anything about making good manga.
Whoa.
Well,
what?
Well, the thing is, apparently he was already successful. Like, I thought this was like the first series by a guy who was just starting out.
No, he made a few things. Oh, I was going to say that I wonder if the dude made Bakuman after he read this, because Bakuman started like a year after the series. Like, okay, clearly I need to teach people how to make good manga, because my assistant didn't get it.
Exactly.
Well, this author's manga is not the best. His more recent works are definitely...
So that's a really good segue into his other works, I'll say. In terms of conventional other works, his most famous one was Mio to Rio, which actually got 2 anime seasons.
Muyo to Roji.
Sure, why not? Tucker's pulling his hair out right now.
He is.
That's fine. And so it actually was created before this series. So the timeline of the anime adaptation, because it got adapted like 12 years after it was created. So I don't really understand how they adapted something that old, because that seems very strange.
It feels like they were just like, fuck, we gotta adapt something. Can't think of anything. Well, what about this manga that like I remember seeing one time like 12 years ago? I was all right. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Because it was adapted in 2018.
Right? So it's just, I don't know. I'm sure there's other cases.
I mean, JoJo. Well, that didn't end, but you know.
Because JoJo's so
that's
massive.
The thing. JoJo got it because it was just so fucking massive that they were like, well, yeah, let's adapt like an incredibly popular manga. I don't know how this happened.
Maybe it was a favor or someone put in a request, because what's he currently doing now, guys?
Boy. You want to say it, Pyro? I know you're pretty interested in it.
Okay.
I like how we're going to call him Reborn so it's not confusing what his name is, and then you just immediately switch to
I told
Pyro.
you I was going to call him Pyro. You're the one who called him Reborn.
Yeah, I thought we agreed
I
on
didn't
Reborn.
agree on
All
shit.
right, fuck it. What?
There are 2 types of people. One that say Reborn, the other that say Pyro.
They both have social anxiety.
Absolutely.
This guy creates adult anime drawings on the Twitters.
He makes porn.
Yes. To be more explicit.
AKA hentai.
He also has a really cool VTuber model, and he is a VTuber on YouTube. He only plays Minecraft, weirdly enough.
Massive titties on that VTube model. Massive ones.
After watching about, 15 minutes of the stream, I do have to say, it retroactively makes all of his works 10 out of 10. I simp. All hail the king.
That's a very interesting reason to say that's why you thought this was a great manga, but sure, we'll definitely argue that at the end of the show.
Spending like 2 hours arguing about the quality of a VTuber's titties.
Yeah, I was really, really close to this being the series where we just don't talk about the manga and we do whatever, something else. Because I was like, guys, let's just talk about, I forget, like, Dan to Dan is not the way you're supposed to say it, but I forget the proper pronunciation of it, so I'm just going to keep saying it like that.
Weren't you on a podcast with that guy recently?
Dan? Yeah. Literally 2 days ago, we talked about Dungeons and Dragons. Told him how not planning sets you free.
You really are a jazz guy, you know?
I really am. Anyway, this series ran from December 15, 2008 to April 27, 2009. So this, along with obviously Cool Shock BT, is never probably going to be beaten as the oldest series, but I think this might be slightly newer than Double Arts.
Yeah, Double Arts, I want to say, was like 2003.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no.
You mean BG?
BG predated Bleach, so yeah. Okay.
I think BG and Double Arts came out around the same time.
Sure. But anyway, this is definitely in the top 5 oldest series. Yeah. I think we've only read 4 series predating 2010.
Yeah, which is why the translation is so shit.
Yeah. Around 2015 was when the standardized techniques for translating manga really, I would say, got established.
I was really surprised that this even got translated. Like, I know it's a fan translation. I know it never got translated officially. But Jesus, I am really surprised that there was a fan that wanted to translate this. Like, there is somebody who felt passion enough to put the work in to do this. And I am very confused.
Pyro, the artist of Fist of the North Star, has some manga that he put out before Fist of the North Star that has never been translated. So that has never been translated, and yet Bokkesan was translated.
I wonder if he was just a fan of his porn and wanted to see. I felt like this translation was weird in that it kind of felt like it was translated by someone who took a lot of ESL classes but never spoke to native English speakers. Like, it wasn't like blatantly bad English. It just read like someone who had never really actually talked in English before, if that makes sense.
I think that there is a mindset among inexperienced fan translators where, like, you don't want to change anything because it ruins, like, the integrity of the manga, even though if you don't change anything, it's just, like, borderline unreadable.
It was a direct translation of literally what they were translating instead of them trying to make it seem like it was written in English. Be interesting to have, like, Stephen Paul read a chapter, Stephen Paul, the official translator of One Piece, and be like, here's where I can tell, like, what technique-wise they did that just made this series kind of like a shit show.
Name drop.
Yeah, he's a great guest. He still comments on our Twitter sometimes, which is awesome. I tweeted about how AMC got rid of my favorite thing about their intro video. I have AMC Movie Pass, which is pretty rad. Have you guys been to an AMC theater in the last, like, 2 or 3 years?
No.
So AMC had, like, this generic video where they showed, like, couple holding hands and, like, people drinking soda. And my favorite, though, was a dude with a giant bag of popcorn. He gets scared and he spills the popcorn over, like, the people sitting behind him.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And they fucking took him out. I was so pissed when I came back and he wasn't in that video anymore.
Wait, so you still have the video? They just took him out?
Now he's just eating popcorn normally.
That fucking sucks.
I used to reenact it every time I spill popcorn all over Rachel. She doesn't even need to wear a poncho anymore because of that.
She just does it anyway for fashion.
Yes, but anyway, this series was 18 chapters in 2 volumes. Let's keep powering through this series, but I know it's going to be very hard to actually talk about it. But try as we might, we are champions of the medium, so let's get into Jordan's amazing, I really can't believe you were able to write about the series as well as you can, plot summary.
Is it cool if I do a Kermit the Frog voice? I know it's a terrible Kermit the Frog voice, but I don't want to give any respect to the series and read it seriously.
As long as people can tell what you're saying, yeah, go ahead.
So I won't do my New Zealand voice.
No.
All right,
Here's
fine.
the plot summary as best as I can do. A little girl's mom is murdered by a bokke, who are like shitty yokai or something, I guess. Then there's a flash cut to Hino Kimuka, a quiet kid with telekinesis, whose only friend is Seiyu, a girl whose life he saved when she fell out of a Ferris wheel 10 years ago by using psychic powers. She's got huge boobs because this is just that kind of series.
She's got some real bokehs.
Oh, yes, she does. He then finds out that he's the cat bokeh Nikogami and fights off the bokeh who killed the girl's mom from earlier. Turns out that they live in a weird town where the North and South districts hate each other. The South is made up almost entirely of bokeh, and the North is mostly humans, I think, so the South wants to murder all the humans in the North. They then meet a bokeh guy named Abel, who's a rock star until he isn't, and he teaches Hino how not to suck. Popcorn David.
Turns out the little girl is actually possessed by Akabako, the most powerful bokeh, who is a cow that causes natural disasters, and the South wants her so that they can genocide the North, which is, I was not expecting this to really be a Civil War metaphor. She unleashes her powers to save Abel, who double-crosses Hino and Sayu, only to then triple-cross and help them, but gets his arm cut off by his senpai. The little girl's powers are transferred to Sayu, because apparently you can only use them once, and she is nearby when it happened.
Yeah, that's why that happened.
Popcorn Reborn.
Popcorn Reeb.
I was trying to say Reborn and Pyro at the same
Popcorn
time.
Reba.
Yeah, Popcorn Reba. We have Emmy Award-winning singer and actress Reba on the show.
About now's when we find out that Hino is a creepy and long-lost brother. Sayu turns into a dragon version of Akabaka with deep powers out of Boke in town where Hino has nicely. Also, the Boke who murdered the little girl's mom was Hino's brother Space, but he's weak now. Oh shit, I almost forgot. At one point, they made a perfect frog. They Kermit the Frog, but he dies so fast it doesn't even matter.
Exactly, yeah.
The Kermit the Frog dude. Oh, man, we'll talk about him because we're in the character section. So, diving into the characters, we've got Hino Kimuka. People think he's a loser because he is. He has magic powers. He has vaguely described ESP, not to be confused with ESPN, because there is actually one of the few mangas that doesn't have a basketball or baseball saga.
Well, they do have baseball.
Yeah.
When did they play baseball?
Towards the end, you know that one dude who's like drawn all blocky and he's like really loud and annoying?
Oh,
and he's
fuck.
like, yeah, I want to be like the best baseball guy ever. And I want to,
God damn
like,
it.
out of nowhere for exactly, like, probably less than one chapter, and he never shows up again. It doesn't matter.
So my assumption with that was before that it was decided that the show was going to be canceled, and that was maybe like a mascot or lovable character they introduced for merchandise.
To sell merchandise, yeah.
But because there's no other character that fits that description, and then he only shows up once, and then it's immediately ham-fisted the end.
Weird. Are you saying that there are plot threads in this manga that do not get fleshed out or continued at all? That's a very strange thing to suggest. How dare you?
No,
But that sounds like a good thing to say for the next section. So let's get through the characters and then we can just dunk on this series for 45 minutes. But yeah, so he was a part of some vague experimentation program. He has PTSD, which is actually an element that I thought was a nugget of interesting. Not that it was very well implemented. And then he's got air powers that...
Kind of?
Probably the translation was bad. I just didn't really understand how he connected having cat powers and air. I guess maybe it's the whole how cats can't die from falling
they
thing.
They add so much bullshit onto him. Like, so many additional powers. I don't know what the fuck to do, but...
He's my OP, do not steal. OC, sorry.
I actually paid very close attention to this because, you know, I've never been on a show where I talked about a manga I read before. So I actually, like, looked at every panel multiple times to make sure I got what was going on. Because sometimes in a cluttered manga with small panels like this, it's really hard to tell. I think the psychic powers part was a mistranslation, because when they talk about him having wind powers, he does the thing where he opens his paw and it causes an air blast, and then he closes it and it draws things towards him.
He straight up, like, was bending a spoon in the flashback.
They imply in a training session and other parts that all Boke have basic telekinesis powers.
Okay, you know what? Fuck this.
Oh, wow, you couldn't follow that?
I tried to defend it.
I'm going to be honest, Jordan, I really, really wanted to Riley method this series, and I actually did, and I was like, no, as the host, I should probably actually read the manga, so I had to go back and reread it. Because I read chapters 1 through 6, 10, 13, and then the last 3 chapters.
If you ignore, like, half the bullshit that people say in this series, it's better than it would be otherwise.
You heard it here first, Jordan. If you didn't read most of the series, it's not bad. It's like George Costanza's life, where he's like, you know what? If you took everything I ever did in my life and you put it into a week, I would look like I really did something with that
Exactly. Time. I do want to say the last couple things about Hino is he lives all alone because his dad is a deadbeat and fails to send him money. It's like actually like really like kind of fucking sad.
It's like Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
To be fair, when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, what is this? Is this like Kingdom Hearts where they're just never going to mention his parents? Do they not exist? And then near the end, they're like, oh yeah, lol, he's a deadbeat dad. They patched a plot hole there, friends.
Yeah, a huge one.
Please don't compliment the series on this podcast.
We'll get into it. I have some thoughts about what they did right there, but yeah.
Jordan, mister, having lots of thoughts. Why don't you tell us about the other main character?
Chihiro Seiyu. She's kind of like his childhood friend who became friends because she was so dumb that she fell out of a Ferris wheel and he saved her using telekinesis.
I actually have a slight problem here.
Yeah?
You called her a character.
Oh, boom! Bam!
The walking fan service plot device character.
The object, you mean, yeah.
Yes, the objects. of our
There's
affection.
definitely one moment where they're playing bowling in the first chapter, and she bowls, and the two middle-aged cops are sitting behind her, and one cop says to the other, "Ooh, did you get a look up her skirt?" And it's like, dude, she's 15.
Yeah, it's just gross.
This series would lose absolutely nothing by just having the characters be like 20-year-old people working at an office. Even when the school gets like cut in the middle, that could have just been an office building. Nothing changes in the plot by having them just be 5 years older.
Yo, I laughed out loud when I saw the school got cut in half. Like, what the fuck?
Doesn't he say the scientist is like, oh, that was just a
he
prank?
said it was just a prank, bro.
Commits war crime. Oh, it's just a prank, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yo, you know what's a great prank, though? Pyro, why don't you tell us about the third main character, Abe, also known as Abel, depending, because it kept changing in the translation I was reading.
This is the only good character in the entire manga. You know, he has an eye patch, he has eye powers, he also has these weird tentacle powers. Like, he's introduced in the second chapter, and the first thing he does is freeze the room. The second thing he does is wrap the walking plot device in tentacles.
Yeah, and he also calls her baby all the time. That was a little creepy.
That's because he's Ice Ice Baby.
Oh, so it's a JoJo reference.
That's what it is, right? Who else would be Vanilla Ice? But yeah.
I mean, this series had a fuck ton of JoJo references where they straight up say, this must be the work of an enemy Bokke.
Yeah, I do also want to say about Abe, or Abel, or Eberu, when he first shows up, he's like a rock star, and that's his whole thing. Like, yeah, I have a guitar, I'm into like stuff from the 70s in America, and I'm speaking English. And then the next time they see him, he's like a butler.
They even like lampshade his retcon. He also reminds me a lot of the character Glenn Close from Dungeons and Daddies. So shout out to a podcast that doesn't need us to shout him out because they literally make like maybe $200,000 a month from Patreon.
I mentioned that I have a podcast to a coworker, and you're just like, oh, is it like Dungeons and Daddies?
Dude, that show fucking slaps. You should watch it.
Maybe I will then. But yeah, the thing is, it's like you were definitely supposed to notice, like, it didn't feel like a retcon so much as a joke that never got paid off.
Honestly, my theory would be that the author or the mangaka wanted to introduce another character to fulfill the butler role, but he also didn't have an idea, so he says, I'm just going to bring the cool guitar-playing librarian back.
Oh, and also he's a Revolver Ocelot, because he, like, double-crossed Hino to, I don't know, be a bad guy. And then it turns out that his boss was like, no, I want to kill you because you're just like, because you fucked up once or maybe had some kind of little thing. So he just triple-crossed and turned onto his side or whatever. I don't fucking know.
He also is kind of like a mentor. Like, he trains him and the next character. So I guess it's like a good segue into talking about Miki.
How are you going to have a high school manga without the fucking pervert?
German Frogman, because he pronounces all of his S's like Z's, which I guess is the only thing the author knew about how Germans talk, which isn't even true.
Dude, I didn't know what the fuck was going on there. Like, the first time he shows up, he doesn't do it, and then the next chapter, he's doing it constantly.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta be honest with this character.
Please be honest, yeah.
When I first saw his frog form, I was like, oh, a male version of that girl from My Hero Academia. Maybe there's a OTP here. With
The best girl.
Well, it's more like if you took everybody's least favorite character from My Hero Academia, Minato, and then just made him into Suya.
Yeah, this character, he's dumb. He dies in 3 chapters because the series can't keep any of its characters relevant.
Listen, that was the only good decision made here.
I completely agree. You know you're fucking up when you kill off a character who's like a kid and the main character's friend. I get happy. He's a fucking creep. Like, he's constantly creeping on Seiyu. His power is he takes photos of people and then can, like, touch them through the photos. So he takes a picture of Seiyu and then gropes her thigh by putting his hand into the photo.
I really don't understand why he was like, oh, you're groping my friend, haha, but wait, let's be friends, actually. I'm not here to kill you.
And apparently he was the hero of the town, because the main character's like, oh, I can't protect everyone like Miki did, where apparently Miki's power of molestation was really what was keeping the balance and society thriving. And they don't explain it at all.
That was like a little payment for protecting her, you know? That's how that works. It's a really nice kind of relationship dynamic to set up.
It's so bad.
They also say he doesn't know how to use his powers because they have to do training there. So how is he already the most powerful person in the town, but he didn't know how to do jack shit?
Yeah, he seems to understand how to use his powers more than the main character.
I love that he died. But at the same time,
Ribbit in peace.
he literally had the power to take a picture of the samurai guy and just grab his arm so he doesn't swing his sword. Like, he was like, no, I must jump in front of the blade. He has the only power in the series that would allow him to win that fight. I read that and I was like, I just don't understand. He has a camera on him.
That connects really well to the next character. So was that samurai guy Kokuto, or is Kokuto a completely separate person that just looked exactly the same but had giant boobs?
There was a comment like, when she's more transformed, it looks like a girl.
So she just fights as a human for the rest of the series?
Yeah,
then?
she never transforms again.
Okay, I was really confused. I thought they just retconned it like in part 6.
I mean, they did effectively retcon it. You mean Anasui, yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid ass, fucking terrible writing. This series sucks too. David doesn't like part 6.
I like part 6, but that was bullshit.
All right, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I see one more character listed. That character doesn't fucking matter. Let's go into why I failed, because that's effectively what every section's gonna be.
No. I want to talk about the reporter lady.
Ah, fine.
There's not much to say about her, but it's something.
So the reporter lady gets the most plot buildup out of any other character in the show. So the main character, it kind of feels like all the fights are one-off fights. There's no real buildup. I mean, at the end of the series, fucking the chapter before the final one, it's revealed he had a brother the entire time, and
sure did.
That's why he has trauma.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, it was like, oh shit, I forgot to introduce a family. Let me give him parents and a brother real But the reporter lady actually had a lot of buildup. So she was in the first chapter reporting on, the main character saving his girlfriend through psychic kinetic powers or wind powers, whatever the case is. We see her a little bit later. She's trying to figure out what's going on. She sees like 3 people get murdered in the middle of the street. I think we see her 2 more times before she dies. It's weird because it's like the series becomes slice of life for a chapter. Yeah, so it becomes slice of life. The main character has a job now, and he's moving boxes, and she pushes boxes on top of him, and she records it, and then she kind of kidnaps him. She shows him a video, and then he gets in her van for some reason. They don't really say where they're going, and then they get attacked, and the main character runs away from the van, and she's sitting next to the van, and then the van explodes. They gave this plotline more build-up than literally anything in the series just for her to get blown up.
I didn't remember that she died. She's just a character who really is a walking plot device, more so than anything else, because it's like if the writer needs to justify something, like I feel like he was just like, what character can I have come back again? Oh, I know, I'll have this adult lady stalk this 15-year-old boy for like 3 months straight.
That's the thing. I have issues calling her a device because, she forces him to get in the van, but there's no...
She's just forcing kids in a van.
She shows him a video, next panel, they're in a van together. Like, there's no plot device. It's just, oh, they're suddenly in a van. Where are they going? I don't fucking know. The van gets attacked anyway. Does it explain anything? No, she was just there.
Well, she's also the one who points out that the main character has a brother.
Oh, was that her character's only purpose?
Yeah.
She was like, you see that part that's ripped out where it's you and your dad and someone else? That's not your mom, bitch. Psych.
You don't have
a brother. Yeah, you have 2 dads. And one of them's your brother. Imagine if that was actually the censorship and it really was he had 2 dads and this is like the most LGBT friendly series.
That would track with Shonen Jump.
In 2008, that would have been really progressive to have a character with 2 dads in Shonen Jump.
One of them being a child.
That's my official headcanon, is that character is actually his dad.
The most progressive series that came out in 2008 was Speedgrapher. Dab, dab, dab.
I have no idea what that is.
We're going to go off on a tangent. I apologize. So apparently there's these angels that give people fetish superpowers because of a virus. So basically whatever your fetish is, your superpower is. The main character gets a camera. He takes a picture, blows things up. Because he has a fetish for war photos. It sounds like a ridiculous premise. I got together with friends to watch it as a joke, like we were going to laugh at it from just the premise. And then it was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. There are like openly gay characters, there are openly trans characters, there are openly cross-dressers.
That's pretty cool. It's like how Iran High School Host Club just randomly has a non-binary character as their main protagonist.
Anyway, yeah, let's move on to talking more about why this series fucking is terrible.
Yes. Pyro, why don't you do the honor of starting this conversation telling us what was something that really stood out to you as to why you didn't like the series? Or sorry, let me rephrase that. That was a leading question, Your Honor. Pyro, why don't you tell me something that you didn't like about the series that really stood out to you?
The ending. By far. I could list off other things, but Jesus Christ. You know, if your show can have a better ending by just being an isekai and by virtue of the main character going back home, then you have fucked up. You have done something horrendous. This show, the ending, right? So basically, all the bokeh, all the people with superpowers.
All the X-Men.
Yes, all the X-Men are in one town together. There's a festival. All the humans get turned into cards. All the bokeh start getting turned into cards. Except one, the main character, and then, spoiler alert, it's the main character's brother. He kills all the bad guys. He's like, haha, I betrayed them to save you. Fuck you.
The main character's brother, who was just introduced like literally the last chapter, and then it's a huge reveal that he was the original evil bad guy who killed the little girl's mom in chapter 1. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. I feel like they added a panel, like they made it look like it was a flashback to the first chapter, but I don't think that was a panel in the first chapter where it showed him going, oh, I didn't expect to see you here, but he never said that in the first fight. They literally retconned dialogue.
They're retconning events from 3 months ago in the manga.
Yeah.
Oda, this was not.
But okay, so it was so bad because all the bad guys are dead. The main character walks up to this MacGuffin. She can revive everybody. He's like, haha, turn all the bokeh into humans.
He does the House of M, Scarlet Witch, No More Mutants thing.
No, Jordan, it's the ending of Mora King.
That is mean to Mora King.
I know.
All the bokeh are already dead except for him at that point. So that means all the bokeh are revived and then turned into humans. Yeah, so all these mass murdering bokeh, because they said like 95% of all bokeh were mass murderers, right? They were from the South. They were the bad guys. They wanted racial purity.
They literally say racial purity, which blew my mind when I read that. Like, the bokeh are a race?
That was insane.
So all of a sudden, all these mass murders are just brought back to life, and it's like, LOL, okay. Now, if they would have followed this by, you know, showing a newscast by saying arrests have been made, it'd be different. But they showed a newscast of the news reporter saying, a different one, by the way, not the one that died. Good thing bokeh aren't real, am I right? Who knows how all this crazy stuff... People died! Mass murdering people are... He just lets them get up and say, oh, well, you don't have superpowers now, so guess who's the real loser?
You brought up something that I really, really have to touch upon. So the way they set it up is there's the North and the South has a bunch of bokeh. Like, the South has 95% of the bokeh, and the North has 5%. Like, that's the exact numbers they give. Now, here's the thing. Bokeh are still not very well known in the North. Like, people don't really know who they are. My question is, how the fuck do they not know? It seems like the South has already killed all the humans that are in there, and it's just bokeh. So if there was a huge genocide that went on in the South, which is what the series tells us happened, nobody in the North knows that they even exist? How did you miss this? This just started happening now?
There's so many implications. Like I said earlier, you know, all these mass murderers are just allowed to walk. You know, he doesn't stop them when they turn human. And he's just like, oh, you're human now. What are you going to do? And just like with what you just said, you know, why are people noticing? I feel like everyone's just really stupid in this manga.
It's really stupid. Shit just happens. There's one moment where Seiyu is holding a scroll that apparently has very important information that would teach Hino how to use his bokeh powers. By the way, he is a Nikogami, which is like a sexy cat lady. And she drops the scroll, which causes her to somehow fall through the floor.
Well, they said it was like, oh, it's shitty flooring. So, like...
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just hang out in the worst, maintained part of the house.
Yeah, whatever. And, the scroll is apparently so heavy that just falling on it makes her crash through the fucking floor. And by the way, Hino reaches out to grab her, pulls her skirt off in the process.
You know what would have made that scene actually worth it is if she fell, but then she got stuck because, her boobs are so big.
That would have made it worth it, David. I agree. Yeah.
That would have made the entire having giant boobs actually have a purpose. That was the only thing I noted of what I would have done differently for this series.
You know what? If that happened, I would have given the series more credit, actually.
I would have legitimately thought the series was being shitty on purpose if that had happened. Yeah. So, though, one thing I just want to talk about in terms of something I really hated was completely unrelated to anything that's been talked about before is the police element pretty much had zero purpose. I originally added like the missioner, and I actually thought that was like one of the cooler parts of the series. And they were like, let's make him relevant for 2 chapters and pretend there isn't this really interesting supernatural police force that's in the background doing absolutely nothing
can we please
relevant.
just talk about how in the first murder that occurs, the woman is cut in half. And we mentioned on the Chibi, it's really funny how you see this woman cut in half and then they're like, she died from being cut in half and blood loss. But they refer to it later in the series and they call it the cut in half murder. Like, what? It's a little specific. You don't use her name. You don't, like, say, oh, the murder that happened the other day. No, it's the cut in half murder.
That's probably a bad translation issue,
yeah,
let's
but
be
even
fair.
in Japanese, like, I'm assuming they're using some other word for that, like some word that implies cut in half, which is still like, come on, man. Like, if someone gets shot in the head, do you go around and be like, he got the gunshot murder?
Okay, would you have liked it better if they called it the hash-slinging slasher murder?
Yeah. Reborn, I feel like you had some other thoughts that you wanted to talk about as well. I just want to make sure I got a word in.
I believe it's chapter 15, the time skip happens, and the series ends on chapter 18. So, chapter 16 is the weird slice of life one. We talked about this earlier. There's the baseball guy. It really feels like after this chapter is when the mangaka got the memo that the series was being canceled. Because he goes from casual slice of life to everyone is suddenly in town for a festival, and also the big bad guy had a plan all along, and also all this plot devices, and also a brother exists. And it's just like, okay, so...
It's enough plot for, like, 20 chapters.
Yeah, and just for the record, by the way, so usually they know when they have 3 chapters left, because that's, I think, how it works. Is Shonen Jump just says finish it in 3 chapters, and then you're done.
If it was 4 chapters, then they could have not had a time skip and it just ended there. And that would have been a much better ending.
This series, the big problem with it is, and we bring this up on a lot of other series, but oh my god, it's so much worse here. There's no focus. Like, the broad overarching plot is the South is trying to get access to Akebako, which is a cow that can destroy everything, I guess. And they introduce Akebako and then immediately say, oh, it's over, Akebako left. So that's dissipated. We get exactly 1 chapter where there's tension, where it's like, okay, we have to protect this little girl because she has Akebako, and then no, she doesn't have it anymore. It's gone.
Yep, we solved it. I'm actually, though, impressed, though, how little happens in everything, despite there being mountains of text. Like, that was probably the most painful thing, was so many panels, so much text. Holy shit. I don't understand how they could say so much or so little with so many words.
I would argue that actually, David, a lot happens. It's just that none of it matters.
You know what? You're right.
I have read enough Hunter x Hunter where I didn't even notice it was a lot of words.
You should read Build King after this.
Oh god, Build King. And then I feel like we really dunked on this a lot in the character section, so I don't have anything I really feel pressed about that I feel like we didn't talk about. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Are you guys cool if we actually migrate to the
there's
positives?
so much bad shit. Like, I could sit here and talk forever about little awful things that happen, little really weird shit. So I'm fine with moving on to the what it did well section. We can get that out of the way.
It is very tiny.
It's almost overwhelming, the sheer amount of terrible things about this series. So just for the sake of making sure this episode isn't 2 hours long, let's just go into the positives. So Jordan, as by far the most positive person in this chat, why don't you tell us what were some things that you actually did enjoy about this series?
I thought that some of the monster designs looked really cool. Some of them were genuinely, like, kind of creepy looking, kind of interesting. Like, when Akebako turns into, like, this legitimately kind of creepy, like, cow dragon, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I'm into that. I mean, the thing is, it's like the plot's so hard to follow that it kind of ruins it. Like, you don't really get like the positives, like that many positives for it, but still, I didn't hate Hino as a character. He was just kind of nothing, I guess.
There was some, like, 2 full panel spreads I thought were actually really cool. Like, when they see the Bokke town or city, whatever, district for the first time, that art was really cool. One thing that stood out to me was actually the series, I'm going to guess by accident, made everything actually make sense, where when they're on the rooftop and they're having the rooftop fight, and how the main characters get saved by Vanilla Ice and the Hammer Guy, and they came out of nowhere, but actually, if you look at the pieces of that situation, it perfectly made sense, because they had just been doing training that the Ice Guy had made them do, so he knew where they were, and there was a giant explosion, and so it's really not that unreasonable for the Ice Guy to say, there was an explosion right by where he was training, something is probably really going on. So I was like, you actually earn this kind of pseudo Deus Ex Machina, which is definitely a huge pain in the ass when characters show up out of nowhere just because it's very easy writing and it looks cool.
This series does this a couple times where it does something and you expect it to be really stupid and then it isn't as stupid as you thought it was.
Yeah.
Like, so the little girl falls into a coma and she is not responding to anybody for like a month or some shit. And then they just randomly get a call where it's like, oh, the little girl woke up and she's accepting visitors. And I'm just thinking, that's fucking stupid. And then it turns out that actually what happened was the police detective or whatever was threatened into making that call. So actually it was like, okay, so that was supposed to be weird. All right, whatever, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Reborn, how about you? What were some things that stood out to you as positives?
The hideaway world is cool. So it's a trope in a lot of manga, a lot of series, even comic books, for the protagonist to have an escape from their own world. And 9 times out of 10, the escape is, it's pristine, it looks beautiful, it's purposely made to be flaunty. But in this show, the hideaway world is a shithole, which I really love.
It looked very cool.
We mentioned earlier one of the girls just falls through the floor and one of the characters is like, hey, yeah, the floor's rotted, be careful. You know what? I like that. I like that a lot. I like the idea of the hideaway world being like, well, we can't get a carpenter in here to fix it. I mean...
Yeah, in this economy?
Oh, we gotta have the magic carpentry Boka. Oh, well, wait, carpentry, we'll just get a guy from Build King.
Hey, we saw the talking house, so clearly, as I posted in the Discord, they're in the same cinematic universe.
Yeah. There were things in this series that made me laugh, and to this day, or to this moment, I don't know which ones were intentional and which ones were unintentional. Like, when they cut the school in half, they have that guy saying, it's just a prank, and it's like, well, I don't, this is all really funny, but I don't know which parts are supposed to be funny and which parts are not.
Yeah. I will say that the art does improve.
Yes.
And you can actually, looking at his porn now, which, I really didn't think I'd ever say that on the show. Yeah, looking at his porn, it's actually quite well drawn. So the guy clearly puts a lot of effort into improving his art.
You already talked about how much you love the VTube. This artist, you can tell he's good at, like, splash pages. If you tell him, hey, draw, like, one image disconnected from any kind of plot, yeah, he can do it. He can do it pretty damn well. When you try and ask him to connect it to something, though, no, doesn't work.
It's like Steve Ditko, where I think it was like he drew all the art and then a writer created and then someone wrote the dialogue after Steve Ditko made the art for Spider-Man. That actually happened in the Doom comic too, where they made the art first and then the guy had to create dialogue to explain everything. And that's why the dialogue makes like no sense.
But it's the best dialogue ever. You have huge guts!
Blood and gore!
Rip and tear!
What a great series. All right. So a Doom crossover actually is a really cool area where the series could have gone, in that it's not. It would have just had the Doom guy killing everyone, which would have been a great ending. But let's actually get into where it could have gone. As I alluded to in the negatives, I think the police element was really cool. Like, it would be cool to have like a supernatural detective agency where they're like friends with some of the spirits and stuff. Like maybe a ghost detective, as that's a real deep cut reference for Jordan. Maybe like I Tell C, but about like supernatural murders. Now that's a crossover. Bokkesan and I Tell C, yeah. And that, I think, really would have added a structure, because this series it didn't even have a good foundation. You could not repair this series and have it be remotely anything like what it currently is.
I disagree with you, actually.
Oh, yeah?
I mentioned this before, but if this was an isekai and it's like, oh, he's in another world, okay, you suddenly don't have to dedicate pages to explaining what happened to his family. He's just in another world. I think that would have added a lot to it. Like, instead of being in the real world, where there's issues of how do these people not know about these, yokai.
I get what you mean, yeah.
And it would also solve the ending. Like, he could just be like, all right, later, I'm out, and go home. If this was an isekai, it wouldn't have been good, but it would have been a lot better.
I could see that. The main issue here is this shit needed to be simplified. There is too much shit going on. Nothing is properly laid out. So instead of, like, understanding and taking the time to, like, absorb what's happening, you're just immediately introduced to new shit. Like, they're still introducing new powers for Bokeh, whatever the fuck, towards the very end of the fucking series. And it's just like, you barely laid out what they could do with just what you have laid out so far, and you're still adding shit? Like, with, like, the evil brother, you already introduced a deadbeat dad, like a shitty deadbeat dad. You didn't have to introduce a brother. You could have just played up the deadbeat dad. You could have had him be the bad guy. But now you have 2 family members that we don't know shit about.
And the dad never matters.
He doesn't matter at all. It's like the Iron Knight dad.
Oh, God.
They had to explain why the main character was working as a 15-year-old, so they had to make his dad deadbeat, so then he could get a job, so then the reporter could knock over boxes, so then the reporter could also film him using psychic powers, so they could teleport to the van. You see, what the author really wanted to do here was teleport him into a van with the reporter, and this was how they did it. You know, it's a little insane, but, you know, the methodology makes sense.
Well, I don't know if I'd say the methodology makes sense.
No, the series is trash. Entirely sarcasm.
Yeah. Like, for instance, the fact that the little girl was Akibako, they could have had a thing where, like, all the good guys have to, like, protect her or something, and there's, like, tension because, like, oh my god, when are the bad guys going to show up and take her or whatever? But no, they resolve it immediately. It just isn't something you have to worry about. Don't worry about it.
Oh my god. One other idea. I appreciate that they actually explicitly say that bokeh and yokai are different things, and I think it would have been cool to actually show the yokai, and instead of having this north-south shit, they could have had bokeh versus yokai as like the actual war, which I think would have been a lot more interesting, and then helped explain, because the majority of the time I'm reading this series, I was just like, why are these not called yokai? Because they seem to be almost the same thing.
And as you pointed out in the chibi, I tried finding bokeh because the way they describe it, it seems like it must be something existent in Japanese culture. I can't find a single fucking thing about them.
I think Tucker said it's a Chinese word.
Oh.
Double checking Tucker's notes, it seems to originate from a Chinese word for like a tattoo punishment, which makes sense because you remember he gets that tattoo on his hand, which never matters after that.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like the author kind of came up with this idea, but again, it doesn't make sense why he didn't just make them
exactly.
yokai.
Yeah, if you did a find and replace on this entire series with bokeh for yokai, it does not make the series worse at all and makes it just slightly better, just very slightly better.
Makes it slightly easier to understand the concept because now he's not explaining something from scratch.
At the very least, it's not a word that is confusing to the reader, you know?
I had one last thought of Harrigan's. I think the PTSD element could have been cool, like to show him like confusing, like when she holds up the coin in the second chapter and he gets flashbacks to how his like training with the scientist and that like activates something in him. That's a cool idea. Like I think we talked about before, that was why I liked some parts of Hellborn, is this whole psychological PTSD, their repercussions for the violence, bringing children into these things that a lot of series just kind of ignore, like it was the main plot of the last season of Steven Universe. But I don't trust this author to have done a very good job of handling that topic well, but it is still an idea that he put in, and then maybe he realized, hey, this isn't a topic I'm going to be good at talking about, or maybe the editors like, don't talk about PTSD in a magazine for 12-year-olds, but they drop it pretty fast.
So he was just like, well, I won't do it. I already set it up, but let's not do it. Like everything else that he does in this fucking series. Like, I don't even think an editor told him. I think he forgot.
Well, power to him, because it was not a good idea. Okay. Speaking, though, of good ideas, though, do you guys want to go to miscellaneous thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I got a big one that I need to talk about.
Jordan, I know you are very excited about one of your miscellaneous thoughts, so Reborn, why don't you start things off?
Hell yeah.
Fuck
you. Jordan, go for it.
There's like a weird game show that occurs at some point. After Hino saves Seiyu, there is a little bit of backstory that this weird scientist from a paranormal agency who seems to be like a James Randi type, whose point is to like disprove psychic powers except when it isn't or something. They put Hino on TV and broadcast him all throughout Japan, I assume, where they just have him struggling horribly to try and bend a spoon on TV. Like, he can't do it. And the whole time, there is like this creepy, tiny old man with no nose who's just like, he's a faker. This little kid is a fucking fake. Everybody laugh at the little kid who's a fucking liar on TV and not a real hero. It's one of the most insane things I've read in a manga. It just completely confused the shit out of me, but I kind of loved it for how insane it was.
Yeah. God, this series is fucking nuts.
Oh my god, my mind has been blown.
What happened?
That's also another thing that Mob Psycho touched on.
You guys haven't even talked about Mob Psycho, because we talked about our conversation in the chat, but you guys actually haven't mentioned it at all.
Mob Psycho hits on every single plot point this show does. From the game show thing, to the older brother issue, to the socially awkward kid having superpowers. The only thing it doesn't have
is terribleness.
But like every other thing, Mob Psycho hits in strides that this series just completely fails at.
The thing is, this series is one of the worst manga I've ever read, and Mob Psycho is straight up one of the best anime I've ever seen in my life. So
If you boil them down, there's a lot of plot points that are the same. One excels, the other drops the ball completely.
Yeah. One, or One, or however you say, is a very good writer, whereas this guy is very much not. So...
I mean, his more recent work has I read it for the plot, I promise.
The plot. Big plot.
His characters have, like, 2 very large plots, don't they?
Other than that, the only thing I wanted to mention is that with the folklore of this show not pulling directly from Japanese mythology, I'm a little weirded out by that. Like, it felt like a lot of these concepts could have just been pulled from Japanese mythology. I feel like the author might be a Westaboo, because, you know, the North-South, racial purity, it feels like it's referring to something in the real world, and I'm just a little confused.
Hey, I'll help you out a little bit. 90% of the of manga that we've read, I've noticed, has weirdly been like a World War II metaphor.
Yeah, like Red Sprite, which is a metaphor for the creation of
yeah,
Israel.
That was crazy. But when Akabako first uses her powers, it creates a mushroom cloud.
What
yeah,
crazy?
There's a mention that Akabako, last time it activated, killed 6 million people. And the bad guys want racial purity, so... There is absolutely there might be some kind of metaphor going on. I don't think it's Civil War, but I think it's something.
Yeah, no, it's,
Oh boy.
That reference there makes the ending even worse because they remove the bokeh, so there is racial purity, and I don't like that in the ending.
There's a lot of problematic things about this series.
JonTron would love it, though.
JonTron would love this series a lot, yeah.
I think we talked about JonTron quite enough for someone who's cancer. We're going to get flagged on YouTube if we mention him too many times.
Beetlejuice.
No such thing as bad publicity, David.
What else? Miscellaneous thoughts. Oh, when they said he turned into a cat god, I just had Rap God like in my head, and I was like, oh, that would have been a good cover.
I've turned into a cat god.
I got my wind powers.
All the front people in the back nod.
What if there was a series where somebody turned into the yokai of rap?
Oh no.
It's just Parappa the Rapper.
Oh, what if it was, instead of North-South, it's East Coast-West Coast fight?
Oh god.
All solved by rapping?
There should be an anime like that.
Listen, no.
Not by this guy.
The bad part would be if their music was so good that they sold an album, and then the album retroactively made the manga good.
You mean like how the porn retroactively made the series good?
Yes!
All right, fuck it. Nothing fucking matters anymore. I know. Let's just wrap this up early. We can all look at his porn together in the Discord, but not actually. God, no. All right, I don't even care about any of my other notes. I just don't want to talk about this series anymore. I want to talk about something I actually like. So, are you guys cool if we go to the final verdict?
Yeah.
I'm going to start by reading 2 6-word summaries that were submitted by people. First one is by T. Wolfwood. Nigh unreadable, not scary, extremely forgettable. And by Tucker, too bad to be kitty litter. So, as always, I appreciate you guys reading it. Obviously, I can see why we had a lot less than Candy Flurry, because a lot of people probably read the first chapter and were like, nope, I'm out. So I appreciate you two, though, still submitting some 6-word summaries. Fight on, you brave soldiers in the terrible manga read community.
I support you, comrade.
And then, Jordan, what was your 6-word summary?
Everything happens so much. Horse ebooks.
They actually turned out that was a person writing those tweets?
Yeah, it was an ARG.
It sucks.
I know.
All right, Reborn, how about you?
Mob Psycho 100, if not good.
Yeah.
I think I heard some background noise. Do you mind saying that again?
Oh, sorry. Mob Psycho 100, if not good. My chair is just squeaky.
Don't know anything about that. That's so strange.
Yeah, Jordan's the king of having being like, Jordan, can you restate that? Because
I got a different chair now, so it's fine.
There you go, bud. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. Mine was actually talking about another series as well, where I said, Pokemon Go, read something else.
Oh,
hey!
Pokemon Go, read Mob Psycho.
Yeah. Oh man, the Dungeons and Daddies people did a Pokemon Go to the polls where they played this like president simulator game where it's a president and then the art people are his cabinet and they have to convince him, and it was all Pokemon related issues. And they the Secretary of Defense is like, oh, we should have them join the military, be like our new WMD and shit.
So is that your recommendation?
No, I really, really like Dungeons and Daddies.
Okay, you convinced me. I will listen to Dungeons and Daddies.
Jordan, let me just tell you this. So Beth May plays a mildly autistic father named Ron Stamp. So they have a cell phone in the Forgotten Realms because it's like a plot. He goes, I'm going to call my friend Beth May to ask for advice about how to handle the situation. And so he calls Beth May, and the DM has to play Beth May talking to Beth May playing her character.
That's pretty good.
And I was like, this is the best fucking podcast I've ever listened to in my entire life. Yeah, I'll just segue that. So I thought this was 100% certified flop. Go check out Dan to Dan. We are actually going to be doing a Patreon special about it. Thanks to everyone. It beat out 2 other series. So really fun series. I got Jordan on it, so I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about, I think, probably the manga that has done the best job of making testicles plot relevant.
Next to Gurren Lagann, maybe.
And probably the best drawn eyebrows in the Shonen Jump world.
Tough competition, but they're pretty good.
I do disagree with something you said here. I do not believe that this is a certified flop. I have seen the VTuber model and watched the streams. I think this is a 10 out of 10. Deserves a writing award. Deserves the Pulitzer Award for writing.
Okay. All right, Reborn. So, though, what would you have said yesterday?
0 out of 10. Burn it. Burn every single copy.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Let me see if I get this right. Yours would be certified flop. Look at his porn instead. Or VTuber account as your recommendation.
But, okay. If you want to watch something, Speedgrapher, an anime original, it's insanely good. It doesn't aim for the same audience. It's a sign-in, but it's a solid 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it. Mob Psycho, if you want to read something. Most people prefer the anime. The anime is also a 10 out of 10, but the manga is still really, really good.
Sounds good. Jordan, how about you? What are your thoughts, and what would you recommend if you didn't think this? Yeah, this is a flop. What do you?
This is obviously a certified flop. I'm going to recommend something that is about as easy to follow as this series. Are you guys familiar with Alejandro Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain? Holy Mountain is kind of the ultimate stoner movie. It's meant to make you feel like you're on an acid trip. Nice. And it does a pretty good job. But the thing is, the visuals are incredible. There's a lot of, actual symbolism there. And it has a good sense of humor about itself. And I genuinely really enjoy it. It's just kind of not for everybody. My other option was Xavier Renegade Angel.
God, fuck off. That was a weird time in Adult Swim.
It was great, though.
All right. So, though, Jordan... Here's the big question. Everybody's waiting. Is this worse than Build King?
I don't think so, but that is not high praise. It's not much better than Build King.
I really think this was worse. This was probably the most painful series I had ever had to read in my entire Shonen Flop career. I really was seriously considering, let's just pivot and make this a stealth Dan to Dan episode and just talk about that instead.
I don't judge you for that opinion, but my god, I fucking hate Build King. I fucking hate Build King so much. Don't get me wrong, this series sucks. This series is fucking trash. But my god, to be worse than Build King, I don't think this artist is skilled enough to be worse than Build King.
I see you mentioned the notes Phantom Seer. I had a conversation with Jordan about this. I read chapter 1 and I was like, this seems like it might go somewhere, and I never touched it again. How badly does it get?
Oh yeah, no, that's how I felt after reading chapter 1 of Phantom Seer as well.
Jordan, this is definitely worse than Phantom Seer, because Phantom Seer wasn't terrible. It was just super bland, and it really didn't aspire to anything interesting. This is another one where it's Beast Children level quality, but not so bad it's good. It just stays bad.
I agree. I just hate Phantom Seer.
Understandable. Have a nice day. All right. So with that, though, you guys ready to go to shoutouts?
Yeah, let's go.
Props to Jordan for making the opening and ending theme, being a great co-host, and helping with editing. Props to Shannon for the awesome cover art. You can find her online at illuminyatea, and Nigel for being our generous art benefactor. Just a note, unfortunately, Shannon is starting to get too busy with school, so we are on the look for a new artist. She is giving us some recommendations, but if you happen to know anyone that you think would be a great replacement for her, please reach out to us. You can email us, tweet us, or on the Discord, because we would absolutely love to have a seamless transition to our next artist.
You get paid. It isn't for free.
And then also, thanks to Tucker for assistance with pronunciation, translation, other miscellaneous research. Also, thanks for sending us some notes. He's actually listening to this recording right now using his member of Shonen Flop power. I also want to thank Nicole Miriam Audi for helping with social media.
And David, thank you. Just thank you for editing this.
Oh, couldn't do it without you. And thanks for editing the Chibi episode,
You're so welcome.
And as we talked about a little bit, be sure to join the Shonen Flop Discord. Come hang out with us, talk about anime, games, or whatever else is on your mind. We also have a book club and regular movie nights. We actually just saw Tucker and Dale versus Evil for our Halloween, and then next month, I believe we're going to watch City Hunter based on how apparently people say that's a really fun series. That'll be a really fun French movie to watch. And if you've been enjoying this podcast and want to help us keep going, consider subscribing to our Patreon. We have a ton of awesome perks ranging from exclusive mini episodes, deleted scenes, and you can even help us pick out what series we're going to cover next. Find it at patreon.com/shonenflop. And on that note, I want to give a thanks to our awesome patrons, Pterodactyl Ghost for being a Chainsaw Man level patron, and Gabe, Mark, Marty, and T. Wolfwood for being King of the Forest patrons. T. Wolfwood is actually listening right now using his Patreon power. And if you're not ready for a regular commitment, consider buying some merch. We've got some really awesome cups, mugs, prints with things like the cover art for this episode or our infamous Gomez Moon shirt, which is personally still my favorite art we ever did. And no worries though, if you can't help the show financially, if you can rate, review, or just tell a friend about it, it really does mean the world to us. We've been really growing our show, and I really look forward to the future of what it means to be continuing to do this podcast with all of our awesome fans. And we couldn't do it without support from you. But you know whose support we also couldn't do this show is from our ever terrific guest, Reborn Pyro. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can they find you?
This was insanely fun. You could find us at youtube.com/Schredditor. That's SHREDDITOR. We have a very diverse cast. The thing I have discovered through doing a year of Schreddit is no matter who you are, no matter what walk of life you come from, most normal people just hate toxic Redditors.
Yeah.
I remember where we had this really long debate on Reddit, like on multiple threads about can a 19-year-old date a 30-year-old without it being weird? And so many people supported that.
We've definitely covered a lot. We've had a few people from Africa, South America. We haven't had anybody from Asia. We've had a lot of people from Europe and one from Russia.
Very cool. Got to get some penguins from Antarctica.
Oh, that's right. 2 continents we haven't covered.
No one hates Reddit more than Redditors.
We are not Redditors, though. Don't...
So you say. You just have a podcast where you read Reddit all the time. You're not Redditors.
Yeah, it's like one of those liberal gotcha. It's like you say you hate capitalism, yet you pay your rent. Explain that, liberal.
Oh no, I've been called out. I'm changing my name. I'm moving to a different... Goodbye.
Sounds good. And then where exactly can they find Schreddit?
youtube.com/Schredditor. That's SHREDDITOR.
And you guys are on Spotify and stuff now, I think, right?
Well, to be completely honest, I actually looked what platforms you guys were on to figure out how to move our show. So we're pretty much on every platform you guys are
Hell yeah.
on.
Glad to hear it.
It's a fun time. People like us. We have a segment at the end where we read ABDL posts, or we grab a post from the ABDL subreddit and make the guest read it. Of course, some of the bigger guests decline because they don't want a recording of their voice reading that.
What is that subreddit?
Adult baby diaper love. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Okay, so, all right. This has been a great recording. Let's end it here.
Don't worry, I'll force you to read one next time. It's fine.
Thanks. I love it. I use my baby voice.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's adult baby diaper lover, by the way. So, yeah, let's move on.
Oh, okay. Well, that one's okay. You do a factory reset with the fetish and you just get back to normal. Yeah, it was like that 4chan. I wrote a grade test where this guy was like, I was fapping to like really degenerate porn, and then just the next day I was like, I just want to see girls making out in bikinis. It was like, did my like brain do a factory reset? Okay, so anyway, though, go to sign off. This has been David.
This has been Jordan.
This has been Pyro.
And you've been listening to Shonen Flop.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
Yeah.
Yeah!